Hello friends, happy December 1st. I hope that you've enjoyed my whisper edition of O. Henry's The Gift of the Magi. You may be wondering why I specifically chose this story to kick off my winter holiday season. Aside from the most obvious points being that it is a Christmas story, and it's also a story that can be read in under 20 minutes. It's also, I find, a very beautiful and bittersweet story, and one that really has a lot more depth than you might notice, like, upon first glance. Funny enough, my own introduction to the story, The Gift of the Magi, was a Disney, like, Mickey and Minnie Mouse version of it, and that was really cute, really sweet. But I decided to read the actual story, and even though I knew the direction it was going in, I still get choked up when Della goes to sell her hair. And of course, this was written in 1905, when the idea of a woman cutting her hair, of course, was hugely controversial. And so, even though, like, her hair will grow back, of course, to mention that her hair goes down to her knees, so it's going to take, probably, even as fast as it goes, probably a couple of years for it to come back to where it originally was. And it's a very public sacrifice. She's going to be, going through in the public, as she shops and stuff, and people will see her with her cut short hair. And I only bring up the weight of her cutting off her hair because I know sometimes some people feel like Jim's sacrifice of the gold watch that has been passed down through the generations, was a larger sacrifice. And it's true, he'll never get that back. But it's also a very private sacrifice, whereas hers is much more public. And that's not to say that one is bigger than the other, but just to, for our more modern sensibilities, kind of give a better understanding of the weight. So, what's the point that O. Henry is making, and why is it called The Gift of the Magi? Of course, the Magi are also known as the three wise men in the story of the birth of Christ, and they were the first to bring gifts with their gold and frankincense and myrrh. And so, I'm going to read that closing paragraph again. The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the newborn Christ child. They were the first to give Christmas gifts. Being wise, their gifts were doubtless wise ones. And here I have told you the story of two children who were not wise. Each sold the most valuable thing he had in order to buy a gift for the other. But let me speak a last word to the wise of these days. Of all who give gifts, these two were the most wise. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are the most wise. Everywhere they are the wise ones. They are the Magi. So, in this story, with this, kind of ironic twist at the end, which O. Henry was known for in his writings, he's not really inviting us to laugh at them or even to chide them for their foolishness, but rather to honor and to celebrate their sacrifice and their deep love for each other. Both of them were motivated by that love. And so, while each of them wound up with a somewhat useless gift from the other, Henry makes the moral point that Jim and Della behaved out of wisdom because the real gift was the sacrifice and seeing the depth of each other's love. And I just think that's beautiful, and like I said, it's very bittersweet. And it does feel like a sad story, or it can feel like a sad story reading it. Like I said, it does choke me up a bit. But I do also appreciate the romance in it. And in this case, I mean romance, both in the, large emotional gestures and signs of affection, Valentine hearts type romance, but also in the literary sense of romanticism, particularly in the literary sense of romanticism, because, in real life, I would never encourage someone to give up their most prized possession for someone else, necessarily. But it also, you can look further into that and recognize that while each of them have this thing that they each love, their prized possessions, and that they give up to be able to gift to the other, neither of them is truly diminished. They no longer have their treasures, but they're still themselves. They're still who they are. Della is still Della, even without her beautiful hair. Jim is still Jim, even as he has released this piece that is connected to his past. And I think that that's a really important lesson to hear. So, anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the Whisper edition of The Gift of the Magi and hear my little rambly analysis of it. And you can look forward to some more holiday-themed recordings throughout this month. And as always, have a beautiful day or a pleasant night wherever you are.